The news keep on coming this week as we got even more cards revealed for set 2, so let's dive into the latest support for the 5 great nations.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we do the weekly wrap up where we take a look at all the new cards that were revealed for the Card of the Day reveals, which means of course 2 new cards for every single nation of the 5 great nation. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into these cards, and we're going to start off with the Monday reveals, which were the cards for Dark States. And one of the 2 new cards that were revealed to us is Cleave Muddler, a brand new grade 2 double R. And this card has the ability Auto Rigger Circle. When this unit attacks, if your Vanguard is Master of Gravity Barrow Magnus, cost discard a card from your hand. This unit gets power plus 5k until the end of the battle, and if your soul has 10 or more cards, counter charge 1. So this card is kind of interesting because it's somewhat similar to Selfish Engraver, because both these cards will lose you a card, but they give you a counter charge. This case, you need to discard a card to get the counter charge, and Selfish Engraver will go towards the soul to give you that counter charge as well. Now both of them have their upsides and downsides, because Selfish Engraver will go towards the soul, which combos nicely with Barrow Magnus as he puts everything into the soul and then can call out new units. So that basically compensates for that. But then again, if you use Selfish Engraver after you call them out with Barrow Magnus, you will then empty out your field, and maybe you don't want to do that, so Cleave Muddler might be the better option, because yes, it will lose you a card from hand, but the unit will stay on the board, so you will keep the same amount of card advantage. Now the difference here is that this card can actually give you more pressure because it gets that extra 5k power that can actually make a difference depending on the scenario. So I wouldn't say that this card outright is bad, but it's basically a different Selfish Engraver that might come up in certain situations. The only issue that I have with this card is that it's restricted to Barrow Magnus, whereas Selfish Engraver is a bit more flexible as it's not bound to a specific Vanguard. As for the second card that we've got for Dark States, we've got Abnormality Extraction, which is a brand new grade 3 normal order. And this card has the ability play this with, cost counter plus 1, and discard a card from your hand. Soul charge 3. Then if your soul has 10 or more cards, choose a card from your soul and put it into your hand. So whereas the previous grade 2 is somewhat of a different Selfish Engraver, this is somewhat of a different Brother Soul, because Brother Soul simply gives you 2 soul. This gives you 1 extra soul, but it does cost you a counterblast and a discard, and that might sound really bad for 1 extra soul, but keep in mind, when you use this, you're probably going to get a card from your soul back into your hand. Now, if you do the calculation, that means you get the exact same amount of extra soul like Brother Soul, because you get 3, but 1 gets out, so it's still a +2 on soul count. But the difference here is that you pay that extra counterblast to be able to get a card from your soul into your hand. That might sound not as great because it's not a direct plus as you're discarding a card from your hand additionally to the order card, but being able to turn your soul into a somewhat of a toolbox can be much bigger than you actually might anticipate, because now you can actually get access to all those cards you soul charge, and you can potentially just run 2 offs or 3 offs and maybe a couple of 1 offs, because you know you're going to accelerate a lot of soul charging, thus granting you more consistent access to those specific options. So on first glance, this might look like a niche difference Brother Soul, but could actually make a lot of difference depending on your playstyle and your deck build, and I can definitely see this more of a tech options than necessarily being a staple 4-off, as I don't really see this being this thing, but I can definitely see this being a tech options for specific players out there that want to tailor their deck to their specific playstyle. So don't overlook this card just yet. I can definitely see some potential within this card. Now if we move over to the Tuesday reveals, we've got 2 cards for Stoicheia, and we start off with a brand new grade 1, which is Sylvan Horned Beast Billbar. And Billbar has the ability act on Rigger Circle, cost soulless 1, and retire this unit. Look at the 3 cards on the top of your deck, choose up to 1 unit from among them, call to the back row Rigger Circle, and discard the rest. The called unit cannot be moved to another Rigger Circle until the end of turn. So this is a very interesting card because it basically makes your deck a bit more consistent, as it allows you to dig deeper through your deck and also remove more cards from your deck, so you get faster to the cards that you need for your combo pieces or a specific tech card. Now, you needing to discard the rest of the cards might sound bad, but keep in mind Stoicheia is the same nation that can also use the dropstone as a toolbox, thus opening up more flexibility to this card. And yes, you need to call that specific cards to the back row Rigger rearguard circle needs to stay there for a turn, but you can use this in Magnolia, which then allows that card to just attack from the back row, thus not losing out on potential value. Overall, I think this card might not be used right now, but I can definitely see some future potential in this card, because it basically allows you to churn faster through your deck. So whenever we might see a combo deck or a specific combo potential within Stoicheia that wants to dig as fast as possible to specific cards, this might come up for that build to just increase the consistency of that particular strategy. So this could be a nice card to add to your collection if you're planning to play Stoicheia and want to potentially get into some spicy things later down the line. Now, as for the second card for Stoicheia, we see a warm welcome new grade 3, which we've been waiting for Magnolia, as this is something that the deck really needed. As we have Sylvan Hornbeast Leita, and Leita has the ability on a rearguard circle, when this unit attacks, if 2 or more units are in front of this unit gets power plus 5k until the end of that battle. And if there are 3 or more, soul charge 1. So basically what this means is, it's a bit weirdly worded here, but it needs to be in a back row rearguard circle, and then once it attacks, so it needs to attack from the back row, if you have 2 units in the front row, which is your Vanguard plus another rearguard, it gets power plus 5k. And if you have 2 rearguards in the front row, including your Vanguard, then it also allows you to soul charge. And that's a big one, because we've seen all types of support cards for Magnolia that relies on soul. And now finally we see something that generates soul, and it doing it on attack is fine. That means you can generate 1 soul every single turn, thus fueling whatever other cards you might use, like the grade 2 of the right line, that then also can use that soul the moment it attacks for even more powerful attacks. So that's actually pretty nice, and it getting that 5k is also great, because combining that with Magnolia makes it a 23k beater, thus hitting over defensive trigger. So this is an excellent grade 3 support card for the Magnolia variant. So I can definitely see this becoming a nice, somewhat of a staple. I don't think it's going to be run at 4 off, but it's definitely a nice card to generate that soul resource that the deck definitely is needing. Now, talking about great support cards for specific playstyles, if we move over to the Brandgate reveals that we've got this Wednesday, we see Cardinal, Fang, Marisma. And this new grade 2 has a very nice skill, which is, although when this unit is placed on the rearguard circle, look at the 3 cards on the top of your deck, choose up to 1 world card from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So we've got a world order searcher. This is great because we all know if Orifice doesn't get his second world order, the deck bricks, and it bricks hard. So having a card like this is nice to increase the consistency of getting to those world orders. It's not a direct searcher, but checking the top 3 for free is, I think, completely fine in the current stage of the deck, especially with all the extra draw potential the deck already has. Now, I don't think this is going to be a 4-off, but I can definitely see this being played as a 2-off or a 3-off to just increase the consistency of the deck a little bit. But you don't want to overcommit on this card, because further than that, it doesn't really do anything, and that's kind of a waste if you are flooding your deck with too many copies of this card. Now, there can be a possibility where you're gonna run this at max copies, as then it allows you to run lower amount of world orders, as you have another way to get more consistent access to them than just running in a surplus amount of them. And that can be great because these cards do have inherent shield value, whereas the world orders do not. So there are things to weigh out here depending on what type of deck you want to build and where you want to put more focus on. But having a card like this is definitely needed, or it's definitely a nice welcome to the Orifice build. Now, on the topic of world orders, we also got a brand new world order, which is Eroding Moonlight. That is another grade 2 world order. And this is a very interesting one, because it has the ability, play this with cost, counter blast 1, although when this card is put into the order zone, call a Shadow Army token to the rearguard circle. This is actually quite huge, because now you're able to get a Shadow Army token on turn 2 on the field. That's a 15k beater or potential booster behind your Vanguard attack, maybe one of your rearguards. This is great for early aggression to just ramp up a lot of damage or rip out a lot of shield value before you go into Orifice and start to beat down with those big number of attacks. So this is actually really, really great. And the interesting thing is that this actually combos nicely with the latest support that we've got for Orifice, because now we have units that can utilize those Shadow Army tokens for resource purposes. So you can create this token in the early game and then maybe use the new grade 2 triple R to retire it to then snipe one of your other units from your opponent's side of the field, which then can clear up even more in the early stages of the game, which can be a nice way to just get a lot of value straight on turn 2. And the nice thing that this is a grade 2 order means that on your right line you can now have the option to play this order or search out the other order that allows you to draw. And depending on your hand in the early stages, or basically your opening hand, you can decide which is better for you, as if you already have another world order in your hand, you might as well just go for this one if you have the counterblast. And if you don't, maybe you want to go for the draw to have more consistent access to that second world order. So there are now actually some options to weigh here, and you can actually now start to tag in different types of world orders, because I can definitely see this world order being just run as a one-off for just that scenario in the early game where you can rely on this one, or you can get away with playing this one on turn 2 to just get that extra bit of extra aggression. Because keep in mind, it's less value than Orifice because you counterblast 1 to get 1 token, whereas Orifice can counterblast 2 to get 3 tokens. So I think this mainly you want to use this on turn 2 if you can get away with it. And besides that, it's basically probably a discard fodder or another world order that allows you to get into the Abyssal Dark Knight mode. So overall, very nice new world order for Orifice. Now moving on to the Dragon Empire reveals on Thursday, we see Stealth Dragon Kizan Reiji, a brand new grade 1 common card, which has the ability act on rearguard circle once a turn, cost counter +1 and soul +1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as this unit and retire it. Very basic retire skill. I'm not really too fan of this one because it's kind of overcosted. It can only be limited to the same column. Yes, it's an act ability, so it can be used in the main phase, thus synergizing with other skills within the Eugene deck. But overall, I'm not too keen about this particular card. However, the second review for Dragon Empire is on a whole other level, as we've got Strong Fortress Dragon Zebra Brachio, and it is another grade 2 unit for Eugene, as its abilities are act on rearguard circle if your Vanguard is heavy artillery of Duststorm Eugene, cost soul +1 and rest this unit. Choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. So interesting enough, this card rests itself to retire something for a soul. I think that's fine for the value that you're generating, because you're going to generate a lot of souls, so might as well just use it for this. Interesting thing here is that this is an act ability. So let's say you cannot get away with resting 2 units with Eugene to snipe something to then activate your abilities that demand you to retire something in the main phase. This is another way to force those abilities off. Yes, we had the grade 1 that we just talked about and other cards that can do it in the main phase as well with on-place abilities, but those are on-place, so you need to place them from hand. If you don't have them, they are then vanilla, and most of them also are a bit too overcosted. This just costing a soul is completely fine, as you probably will have excess amount of soul in Eugene. But the other reason why this is no issue whatsoever is because of its second ability, which is auto rearguard circle. At the start of your battle phase, if your opponent has 1 or less rearguards, stand this unit, and this unit gets power +5k until the end of turn. So this is actually really great, as it can negate its rest ability of its own cost, so basically turning into a soul +1, retire something, and give itself 5k. That's what the soul blast now turns into, which is actually a lot of value, which I really like. But on top of that, even if you don't want to use its own ability and you want to use it with Eugene, it actually now allows us to generate more value of Eugene. Because the problem is with Eugene right now is that the only way to get more value of its rest ability is rest specific units that can retire itself for specific abilities, like retiring more units on your opponent's side of the field, or replacing itself with another card, or just generating power or something like that. The issue, however, with those cards is that they then rely on Eugene's soul +5 skill to repopulate the board. But that means you're relying on RNG to generate a better field that you already set up with maybe decent units in the first place, which is kind of awkward. Now this grade 2 fixed that issue, because now you can rest this card with Eugene himself, and then you keep the units on the board and actually become better in the process. Thus you're not as reliant on Eugene's RNG ability to create a offensive field, thus making Eugene's soul +5 ability more like a emergency button. If you cannot build a field and you really need something, then you can go with it. But besides that, now you can actually rely on your rearguards a bit more to to just keep staying on the field and actually pressure with themselves. So this is a nice card that is very flexible in Eugene. It can help you to remove even more units on the field, and it can help you to keep a solid board throughout the entirety of the game. So that's a really nice support card, and I hope we're going to see more cards like this for Eugene to actually make Eugene a bigger threat and a staying power within the 10 main builds that we have right now. But if we move along from Eugene, we go to the Friday reveals, and that means we go to the 2 cards for Cater Sanctuary, and we start off with Sublime Will, a brand new grade 3 Blitz order for Cater Sanctuary. And before we talk about the skill, I am in awe for this artwork. Like, these order cards and just the general card artwork for Overdress just keeps on getting better and better and better. Like, this thing is stunning. So, yeah, I like this, and the great thing about it is that it's probably very likely that we're gonna play this card, because its ability is if you have 3 or more grade 3 units, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets power plus 20k until the end of battle, including Guardian Circle. Now keep in mind, it's in Blitz order, you're not placing this one onto the field, so it doesn't count itself. You're just playing from hand, and that's it. So keep that in mind when activating this ability. Now, you might think to yourself, now hold on a moment, we're actually power creeping the Blitz order for Cater Sanctuary from set 1, the previous set. That is, I believe, something Tetsudo, that allows you to give 15k power to a unit. Now, the thing is, we aren't actually necessarily power creeping here, because the previous Blitz order specified if you have 3 or more units, and you can give any unit plus 15k power. This one specifically asks for 3 grade 3 units, and you can only give the Vanguard plus 20k power. So yes, it's 5k more power, but it means you need to rely on grade 3s, and you can only defend your Vanguard. So if you wanted to defend your rearguard, you could not do that with this order, but you can with the other order. So this is an order that is specifically tailored to Bastion, and that's obvious with the artwork, so it's great that it actually fits. Now, it getting 20k power is amazing, because this means it will probably replace the grade 3 Guardian Angel in this particular variant, because the Angel is a grade 3 that gives us shield, but the moment that this thing is 20k shield, the Angel is actually only 10k shield, because if you place the Angel on the Guardian Circle and you have 3 grade 3 units on the field, that actually turns into 10k shield for that Angel, whereas this order card is immediately 20k shield. That's a huge jump. The only thing that's in favor for the Angel grade 3 is that this is an actual unit, so you could potentially call it to the field, whereas this order, you cannot. But this amount of shield value is kind of big for Bastion, so I can definitely see this becoming a staple for Bastion for a while, because it gives the deck a lot of shield value, and shield is something the deck really needs right now. But that's just one card for Cater Sanctuary, as we've got another card which is pretty flexible, because we initially thought that this one's going to be a Bastion support card, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case, because the other card that we've got for Cater Sanctuary is Heavenly Bow of Guidance Lever Sos, and this is a grade 3 triple R unit with the ability contains a rearguard circle. If your persona rolled this turn, this unit gets boost. So it's a grade 3 that can potentially be a 15k booster in Bastion, which is nice. It basically can become a booster with Darkstrain Dragon in the early turns, and at the moment that you persona ride, you don't have to use the Soulless 2's ability to give it boost, and now it can boost on its own, thus giving you more consistent access to actually powerful attacks. But the more interesting thing is in its second ability, which is Auto and Back Row Rearguard Circle. Once a turn, when your other units stand by a card's effect, stand this unit. So when you restand a unit with Bastion, now you can restand the entire column for free, which then means that instead of attacking with 25k and 35k, including the persona ride of course, it's actually 40k, 50k, which are quite sizable numbers you're generating for no extra cost. The only thing that you need to keep in mind is that you could persona road, or you can rely on Darkstrain Dragon to give this thing boost if it cannot get boost on its own, which is actually good for Bastion to beat out even bigger numbers than it already can do right now. But the interesting thing here is that it isn't necessarily Bastion specific support, because it can actually work wonders for the Sorceress build for Hexa Orb Sorceress, because Hexa Orb Sorceress also relies on persona riding, and because it relies on persona riding, its condition to have Persona Road the turn to give boost actually then also will apply for Hexa Orb Sorceress, giving them access to a 13k booster for free. But on top of that, Hexa Orb Sorceress can use the grade 3 Divine Sister that can restand itself if you drive check a trigger, which incidentally the Sorceress build wants to do. So then by combining those two cards together, this card can then also resend together with that grade 3 and then churning out 2 very powerful attacks in that build as well. The only difference is that the Sorcerer's build will come with trigger potential and more trigger effects, so crit triggers and whatnot, whereas Bastion just beats with high numbers right at the get-go. Depending on your playstyle, one might favor you a bit more, but the interesting part is that we now actually see a very solid card, a high rarity card, that can be utilized for multiple builds, whereas it maybe looked to be more tailored to a specific build, which is kind of interesting as this opens up more playstyles for either Bastion as well as Hexorb Sorceress. And that also concludes all the reveals that we got for the Card of the Day's reveals this week. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of these reveals. There were a lot of interesting cards in between them. I think we see a lot of more generic support cards with a little bit of touch on specific builds with the Soul Charger for Magnolia as well as the new Blitz Order for Bastion. But overall, the reveals this week were kind of exciting, and I cannot wait to see what we see more in store for us, as I think we're gonna get even more exciting stuff next week when we see more support for the other main playstyles. So let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of these new cards. As always, this video has been brought to you by lovely patrons over patreon.com/FangInsider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can simply go to patreon.com/FangInsider and become a patron today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one!